Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Anne Alston, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am so excited for the fourth year in a row, coming back in 2019 with another season of the BMWC. This has been an amazing journey thus far, just meeting so many amazing people and definitely amazing authors who we have tonight that's going to be talking about his book that he just released in August, and we're going to be bringing him here shortly on the podcast. But before I do that, I want to tell you what the BMWC is all about. The purpose is to not only unify all races and also talking about careers, business speakers, and authors, but we are also sharing this information to encourage you, the working professional, students, and career seekers to enter their line of work and to understand that jobs and business are changing, and this information is going to help you make good career decisions. So make sure that you visit all of the pages, click on all the links, listen to the podcast interviews, check out their videos and their one sheets and their books, and definitely reach out to them and patron their business most of all, because a lot of these people are business owners, and so they can't do what they do without you. So make sure that you check out all the information, because there's so much information out there that you can take advantage of. While you're on the site, I want to encourage you to also check out 2018, 2017, and 2016, because you have 4 years of the BMWC that you can take advantage of. Now, I would like to take a moment before we get into our speaker tonight to thank our corporate sponsors, who are My Financial Home, Evangelism Radio, J&F Enterprises, Sears Consulting, Autism Families Rock, Awakening to Love, Eli Natoli, Kimberly McLure, True Synergy, and Platinum Financial Services, along with all of our other 50 something, it's just so many people, participants who is helping to make this season a huge success. So I'm going to get right into it. I am just really excited to have another amazing author and young student here that is making waves out here, doing amazing things. And I want to talk about Nelson Brown. He is a 19-year-old man just living out there in Cantonville, Maryland. He is an editor, a writer. He's also an artist, and he's on the electoral board of the literacy magazine in his local college. His long-term plans is to obtain a career in environmental science. Wow. And he's in the process of promoting his new book, which is called The Beauty in Us, Our Reality, which is his first book in his first series, The Beauty in Us. This series is all about promoting the positive aspects of controversial topics such as beauty, body image, self-acceptance, and colorism. And his first book is also about memoirs of how he struggled with his own self-image growing up. So I want you guys to continue reading his bio, and I want to welcome Nelson to the podcast. Nelson, what is up?
Hi, Ms. Alston. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my story and use this platform to just share my expertise on everything that I'm passionate about.
Awesome, awesome. So, as you could tell, I'm always excited to hear young folks coming on the podcast and talking about their amazing things. So, let's just start with just you talking about where you grew up in Cantonville, Maryland, your background, and how you even fell into just getting into writing and even writing for a magazine. So, how did you get into that type of thing?
Well, actually, I've always loved English in school. I've always loved exercising that creative muscle whenever I had the chance. English was always my best subject. I was always into writing. I started writing when I was about 14 on my own. And the book is actually inspired by my struggles with my self-image growing up. It talks about, how I struggled with my self-esteem in different periods of my life, and how, like, my outlook on myself, affected my relationships with other people. It definitely made an impact on the activities that I participated in, and just going through school and just going through all of the youthful insecurities that many people faced and many people have during those years. And I wrote the book because I see that in the media, body image, body positivity, self-acceptance, loving yourself, and things of that nature are always spoken from a female's perspective, and I looked throughout the media and I didn't see any males speaking about it openly in the media at all. So that's why I decided to pave my own way and do my own thing by establishing a book series of my own called The Beauty in Us. Since I struggled with it on my own, and since I, had such a negative experience, I decided to take my negative experience and I wanted to turn it into something positive and something uplifting, for the next person, for the next boy or girl that's struggling with the same thing. And I gained an interest in environmental science in high school when I was accepted into the environmental science magnet program at Western School of Technology and Environmental Science. I graduated, and during my senior year, I got a job at the Maryland Department of the Environment. That was in 2016. I've been there, ever since, and I graduated in 2017. And it's just been, I've definitely taken advantage of a lot of opportunities that have been presented to me up front, especially at a very young age. At my school, I'm on the editorial board of the magazine. I enjoy looking at work from other artists, other writers. It helps me learn more about them and about me. There's so much to learn from many different artists. All of us have stories to tell. All of us captivate stories in different manners. And I'm also the Project Sparks Success Team Secretary, and I was appointed one of the 3 leaders at my school at the Community College of Baltimore County in Catonsville, Maryland. So, I'm busy, but, I've definitely made, a lot of connections. I've built my network a lot.
Right. It sounded like you really have taken control of what was going on with you as a young age and turned it into just different avenues in which you can branch out, from writing to editing to being on the board to being a secretary and now environmental science. So with all of that, I do want to take a step back because that was a lot of information, and I want people who are listening to kind of hear how you kind of just went into the editing role and then landed into environmental science, because you would think that those two things are fairly different in terms of careers, and especially being 19 coming out of high school. There's a lot of students who suffer with self-esteem. Even me, I think that that is something that every student faces one way or another. So can you share with maybe other young people of what, maybe practices or methods that you use in your writing that helped you, which led you to doing this book series? So just share a little bit of that.
Well, it all started in 2013. In 2013, I was about 236 pounds. I was about, 5'4" at the time. And, I was overweight and I was just in a very unhealthy mindset. And, I was in an unhealthy frame of mind. And this was my freshman year of high school. And during that time, I refused to participate in any clubs or activities. And I refused to get involved in any type of organizations because I felt so insecure about my physical appearance. I struggled with my weight all my life. I was always considered to be the heavier person in my class ever since kindergarten, but I did not really view my weight as being an issue, or just my appearance in general as being an issue, until I was about 10 or 11 years old. But it really started to affect me when I was 14. And also, and I even though I did have supportive family members and friends, I did have people in authority roles and just teachers, administrators, and just people who were actually supposed to motivate me actually belittled me a lot of the times. And a lot of people underestimated me and my ability to do great things. And in this first book, it talks about how I managed to juggle relationships between people from the age of 5 until my graduation from high school. But the writing came in about 14, a year after I started losing the weight and dieting and exercising and just adapting to a healthier lifestyle in general. I started to think about, I used that as a creative outlet in order to express myself and in order to figure out a healthier way to, release any anger or release any frustration, feelings of frustration that I have. But I decided to write the book and establish the book series because I wanted to use, that platform as an inspiration for someone else going through it. And especially, today with social media, it definitely advertises false hope for our generation. The more that we seek into the this technologically advanced world, the more we seek into this technologically advanced world, I mean, the more there's false hope, that's being advertised every day from Instagram to Facebook to
Mhm.
Twitter to Snapchat. I mean,
Mhm.
it gives teenagers, especially middle schoolers and high schoolers, a false sense of reality. Because they look at TV, they look at magazines, and they
Mhm.
start to think, okay, I have to look like this in order to feel beautiful. I have to, look like this guy in the magazine in order to feel, attractive. So it's definitely dangerous, and we're moving in that direction, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly about many of the things that you said about, especially about the false hope, because I think that the media does play a huge part in how we see ourselves as an individual and how, the society says how we should look and feel. I know I had my fair share of that. I'm very transparent, for my background as well, being heavily bullied, overweight, and being a female and all that kind of stuff, and then learning how to overcome. And I want to congratulate you on that because not many teenagers are able to, take their weakness and turn it into something positive by using your writing skills, which is your God's given gift. And I was actually just on another podcast where we were talking about that. A lot of people are walking around with their gift and not really learning how to use it to call to their purpose. And it seems like you were able to call to your purpose by using writing and editing as a leverage to find that healthy lifestyle for yourself. So I want to congratulate you on that because we have a lot of teenagers out here, like you said, that is believing in the false hope of what the generation is supposed to represent. And I want to encourage people to do journaling and finding their voice, whether it be writing or speaking or artistic or painting or whatever the creativity they can use. I really encourage that. So I want to thank you for sharing that intimate part of your life. And I know that that was kind of difficult, but I want to swing the interview over to, just the excitement of knowing that you are coming out of school with environmental science degree, which I love STEM. I love technology, science, and all that kind of stuff. So what led you to go into environmental science?
I've always loved. Well, when I was growing up, I always loved experiments. I loved conducting experiments. I always loved, the Animal Planet channel. Growing up as a kid, I loved learning about animals. I loved just learning about, the relationships between humans, the environment, and just every aspect of the world we live in. And during my senior year, well, in high school, I graduated from Western School of Technology and Environmental Science, and we took different courses from ecology, zoology, biology, and an advanced level of environmental science. And it really gave us the opportunity to just gain that type of exposure that we need in our field, because regardless of whether people think about it or not, science is everywhere. Everywhere we go, everything we touch, everything we taste, everything we see, everything everything we're in science. We live and breathe science, believe it or not. And I unfortunately think that a lot of people um, don't really think about, you know, pollution, climate change, or many controversial topics as such because they feel as though it doesn't directly affect them. And, as an environmentalist, I, seek justice and I bring awareness to these topics to make people aware of how their human behavior, how their actions affect the earth, and how healthy or unhealthy it can be or will be in the future if you don't change your lifestyle, or if you don't pay more attention to what you throw in the trash, or just what you taste, what you touch, just everything that you do. And at the age of
Mhm.
17, I landed a job at the Maryland Department of the Environment, and under the lead poisoning prevention program. under the Land and Materials Administration. And in my section, we evaluate cases that pertain to children that have been exposed to lead poisoning in all 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland. And my
Oh,
job is
wow.
to, yes, and my job is to keep all of the blood lead results and lab slips confidential. And I do that by, we have different databases we use in order to store the
Mhm.
information that is faxed to us from all of the nurses from each and every health department. So we collaborate with a lot of IT specialists and nurses in order to get this job done. Sometimes it's easy to lose track of, because we help thousands and thousands of kids in this state, and it's easy to lose track of results. It's easy to just forget about where things are or where things should be placed. So I have a nurse consultant, an IT specialist, an epidemiologist. I work with environmental compliance specialists. So we just have different people on our team to get the job done. We have risk assessors. I mean, we have a lot of people. It's not just a one-man job. We're
Yeah, I
all a
can't even
team.
imagine. Wow. I mean, I'm just in awe. I mean, you are so young and you're already doing this kind of work. That's what I'm so amazed about. So let me ask you a question, Nelson. During your time of, going through school in environmental science, were there a lot of students in this area, or do you feel that now that you're working for the department and you are in it, okay, you're living it, you're doing real life stuff, do you feel that one, there was enough students in this particular industry, or do you feel that there needs to be more people in the industry where you're now working? Because apparently it's definitely a difference between going to school, getting a degree for it, and actually living and breathing and doing it.
Well, I think that there are a lot of students in general pursuing a career in environmental science, but as a young man of color, as a black man, it's not really popular, if that makes sense. Pursuing a career in environmental science is not really popular in the black community.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
um,
had a
um,
yeah. I mean, it really does make sense. I had a gentleman, and I think I'm gonna introduce you to him. There was a gentleman who was on the podcast last year who is in the cleaning business, and he chose environmental science as one of his, industry favorites. And one of the things that he did was that he created his own cleaning solution. And from that cleaning solution, and going around and talking about the cleanliness between the air and the cleanliness from a hospital, particularly from people who come from a hospital environment where everything is sterilized, to coming to a home to continue healing is where he put his focus. And he actually created his own cleaning products to the point where he now has a show on Amazon called the Environmental Medicine Show. And he's talking about different ways in which we could use a healthier lifestyle of using cleaning products. And so I'm definitely going to introduce you to him because he is amazing. And I think that having more people in this industry, because I don't really hear people say, "Oh, when you come out of school, I want you to go into environmental medicine." I never
right.
I never hear that in college, and so I'm definitely would love to promote and help you find a way to promote that awareness, particularly for those of color in this environment. Because, like you said, I don't walk around thinking about how my breath is in the air and things are around me. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. I'm oblivious, Nelson. I'm oblivious to what's going around me. Okay. So when you
Right.
started talking about all of these different things in the atmosphere, it actually made me sit and pause and think and say, you know what? If I don't know this, then I'm pretty sure millions don't know this because we're just all walking around thinking we're fine. And you're going around trying to help kids with lead poison, and all of the different things that you find in that compound. I can't even imagine, right? So I'm pretty sure you're
Yeah.
finding all kinds of stuff. I don't even know if I would have asked you, but for this podcast, I don't know. Tell me. Tell me.
Usually, I work with risk assessors, and our risk assessors are usually assigned a certain number of jurisdictions within the state of Maryland to go out and then talk to, the property owners and the tenants about the condition of the properties that they reside in. And usually they have tools that they use in order to detect whether or not lead is present. And usually, all of the information I keep is confidential. I work under the lead surveillance section. So I'm supposed to ensure that all of the blood lead results that come from our risk assessors and our environmental compliance specialists are in the database and that are in the system. And I have to make sure that all of the information is accurate with each child that is tested in their health department by a nurse. So I haven't been out in the field. I haven't been able to go out and talk to some of these tenants and property owners and conduct investigations myself. But I can say that sometimes kids are tested more than once. Sometimes cases close sooner than later, and sometimes others don't. So it all depends on the circumstance.
All right. So I think one of the questions, you might not be able to answer this one, but I would just say that based on your experience on results and maybe talking to the assessors, what advice could you give to parents on how would they know that one, their house still has lead in it? Because I'm thinking with the technology of house building today, there really shouldn't be houses still out there with lead in it, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the older homes that are more than 100 years old that may still have some sort of lead in the paint or somewhere around the home. But what would you say to parents, like maybe some symptoms or anything like that, that maybe you have learned in this whole process that they could recognize if they have been exposed to lead or maybe have gotten sick or something like that? Maybe anything that you can probably share from your experience.
First, I would just like to let if someone is a parent, I would definitely tell them to monitor, especially with younger children. I would say toddlers, people who are 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. I would definitely tell them to monitor what your children put in their mouths. A lot of times when children are very young, I would say about from 6 months to about 3 years old, they like to put things in their mouths. And their toys, the furniture. A lot of kids, they like to chew on things, and they don't really understand the concept of, okay, something may be dirty, something may be infected. They don't understand that. Everything that you touch, everything that you taste, all of it is not healthy. It may be contaminated. Like I said, lead is usually found in old properties that have been built, well, in these days and times, usually built from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. They're usually about 4 to 5 decades old. And, of course, there's wear and tear. And I would just tell parents, like especially if they have children, to monitor what the kids put in their mouths. Just you can't let them have access to any and everything in the house. I would definitely say that, you have to inspect your property. You have to keep track of how often you inspect your property, because the longer you ignore it, the more lead that manifests itself into your property. And it definitely affects, a child's cognitive developmental skills at a very young age when they do put, toys or furniture or, whatever in their house and whatever is covered in lead in their mouths. It affects their cognitive development. It creates difficulty
Mhm.
as it pertains to the way they
Speech and
learn.
walking. Yeah, speech,
Yes,
walking, learning, all that stuff.
yes,
Right. And yeah, I just think that we all, as parents, we get busy and we don't think about the household until something breaks, right? So I know for me, I was very present about the condition of my home because when I bought a home, it was a very old home. right? So, and I had my home tested, and I think on the outside, like somewhere where the shingles were, I had like a little tiny bit of lead, but I didn't have any on the inside. So that was one of the most important things that I had to do when I first bought my home. And then, of course, as things go, go by, you don't really pay attention to peeling paint. You don't pay attention to a lot of things. And I do think that what you gave out was very good advice in terms of, making sure you inspect your home and making sure definitely that the child is not just putting any and everything in their mouth. Okay, so that was some awesome information. And I want to say congratulations to you for choosing this industry, because we need people like you who is helping out there, saving lives by, doing whatever that you can do on your part to educate people on lead poisoning for not only themselves, but also for kids. So thank you for that. So I want to turn to your book now. Okay. So I know we want to talk about this book that you got going on, talking about the beauty in us, our reality, which is your first book series. So I know you mentioned earlier, about self-esteem and things like that. But, without giving too much away of your debut book, give us some insight of what type of stuff to find in your book that you sort of wrote about.
Well, well, the first book in the book series, of course, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast and in my interview, the first book, it talks about how I struggled with my self-esteem and my self-image, during different periods of my life. I would say that readers can expect for me to show a lot of my innocence and a lot of my vulnerability in the book. There are periods in the book where I become very like emotional, and the climax, the turning point is evident. It begins with me at the age of 5 in kindergarten, and it concludes with me at the age of 18 for my graduation from high school. And it just talks about many of the relationships I had to juggle, between that time frame, and it talks about how I experienced, controversial subjects such as bullying, colorism, and how I just struggled with self-acceptance. It also talks about how like my peers or how my teachers may have influenced me, whether it's positive or negative. It's a little bit of humor. It talks about family values. So it's a combination of things. Since this is my first book, I just wanted all of my readers to get an introduction. I wanted to introduce myself to all of my readers in my first book. And right now, I'm currently working on my next 2 editions that I plan on releasing in June of next year. Um, they're supposed to be books of poetry with themes such as unity, independence, forgiveness, and spiritual growth, which is what I learned about ever since I've released this first book. And ever since I graduated from high school, I've been able to fight off of a lot of youthful insecurities that I used to have in the past, and a lot of things that used to matter to me, and a lot of things that I used to care about, I don't really concern myself with anymore.
So, yes, that is, I think that what you wrote is definitely something that a lot of people not only need to read, but also need to see if they're having the same issue, to find out what you did to kind of overcome those things. And so I want to encourage everybody to click on the Amazon link that's going to be on Nelson's page and purchase the book. Find out more about what he did to overcome. There are too many young folks out there that are suffering and silent about their struggles with self esteem, their idealism, and their self acceptance, and just being authentic of who they are and accepting who they are. I actually had a podcast interview with Tamika Sears, who was talking about how nowadays, with the way that millennials are coming up today, how is really important for people who are hiring or have businesses to be their authentic self. And there are many of us out there that is expressing ourselves from young to old. And so I want to encourage more of self acceptance along with Nelson here, and making sure that you guys click on the link below, go to Amazon, purchase the book, and find out more about that. And also pick up a copy of Empower Thyself as well, which is the book that I wrote on how you can overcome and also increase your self-esteem as well. So definitely do that. So Nelson, are you having any kind of events as far as a book launch, or are you speaking anywhere that you would like people to kind of connect with you in person on?
Well, yes. One of the biggest events that I've planned this year will be held at the Community College of Baltimore County on May the 2nd, on Thursday, May the 2nd of 2019, at the Community College of Baltimore County in the Student Success Center, in the Student Services Center. I'm supposed to be having a book signing event, but I'm also supposed to have a panel of people in the field of entertainment there as well. One of my biggest clients
Wow.
that's supposed to be coming is Lisa Willis. She's a former WNBA player. She lives in Laurel,
Nice.
Maryland, and she retired because she wanted to focus on her career in business and as a public speaker. I met her through another connection that I have, but I'm going to have someone who is the CEO and head stylist of her fashion brand. I'm
Mhm.
going to be having a musician, someone from a record label, and a fellow podcaster and author.
Wow. Fantastic. You go, Nelson. That's how you do up a book signing, okay? I've been to book
Yes.
signings and I did not have entertainers there, okay? So you are doing it up. Now, are there any other events that you guys are going to be at, doing it up? Because what I want you to do, first of all, is make sure you give me the flyer so that I can not only post that prior to your event to get people to come out, but I can also put that on your podcast page because we launch on the 13th, and I want people to connect with you on other events that you're having.
Okay. I'm still, promoting the event. My team members said that, CCBC is going to, the Student Life is going to post it on all of their social media platforms, and I'm also going to have my second appearance on April 30th, 2 days before the event on Fox 45. I'm going to be promoting my event on Fox 45. Um,
Nice.
and
Okay.
I'm just using a lot of platforms. Like I said, I've built my network and I have a lot of people, supporting
Hmm.
me, my endeavors, and just, with everything that I'm pursuing. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you, but I'm in the process of, I'm training with a team of ministers to become one at the Messiah Community Church. Right now, I'm training. I have 6 more weeks left of training before, I become a small group facilitator. In other words, I'll be able to teach a discipleship class for members of my church. We do this every spring. We do this every year, and it's definitely a great opportunity to share the love of God and the Word of God with others. And it's something that I always wanted to do. Um, and my mentors, I have great mentors, and it definitely gives me an opportunity to show young people what it means to love God. Because unfortunately, I think that a lot of millennials are shying away from church more and more, and they just don't really understand the concept of what church is and what having a relationship with God is all about. And since I've been raised in church all my life, it definitely gives me an opportunity to share my testimony and share my ministry with them and with the fellow members of the church. And I'm just using my age, my gender, and just my color, my ethnicity, my background to make a difference and to, break through a lot of the stereotypes that the world presents, the media presents. And, it's a lot. I'm doing a lot, but I enjoy doing it.
And you know what? I appreciate all that you're doing right now because we need more people like you doing that. And I call it breaking the barriers. I believe in anyone who is able to unify, and that's what I'm hearing from you. And I want to wish you so much success with everything that you're doing, from your book series to your ministry to your environmental science studies and all of that you're trying to do, because I know that you're going to make it. If you've overcome the most darkest period of your life, I know that you're going to succeed. I just know that within my heart, and I mean that. And so I want to thank you for being on the podcast. And I have one more question that I would like to ask you before we end out is, what do you need to thrive in terms of your book and working with environmental science? What do you need personally from those who may be listening to you that can help you in your endeavors?
Well, all I'm asking for from all of the listeners is to just take a chance, just purchase my book on Amazon, connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're ready to dig deep and look inside, if you're ready to discover something extraordinary or something special about yourself that you may not have noticed before, I'm giving you permission to see how vulnerable I really am with my first book. I'm giving you permission to insert yourself into a chapter of my book. I'm giving you permission to just see how males carry their insecurities in the public eye. Unfortunately, it's historical, it's generational, and it's ancestral for men to just have a tough attitude and for men to pretend like, their pain doesn't matter. Well, I'm breaking that stereotype and I'm breaking that barrier, and I'm showing, especially the ladies, young and old, I'm showing them that men have insecurities as well. They display them in a different manner. They try to suppress them in the public eye, and I'm just giving myself permission to just be vulnerable and even honest about how I feel. I'm definitely giving you a chance to just share this story, share this interview, share just everything, just me, just
Just
share.
share it. Just share it, right?
Yes,
Just share
yeah,
it.
just share it.
Right.
Just share
And
it
then you're
with
right. And you're
yes.
right. There's a lot of men out there that is not coming out the way that women come out. I think in my experience, men come out in different forms of workshops that are not as bold as yours. And I want to encourage you to keep doing that. I try to get men to come out to events all the time, not just, I just don't do empowerment ones, but even just for the podcast to get out and just be vulnerable, tell people what you've gone through so others can learn. And that's really what it's all about. And trust me when I tell you, Nelson, you are on the right track. Don't stop what you're doing. I want to encourage you to keep breaking barriers, to keep unifying, to keep your ministry and anything that you are inspiring to do. Definitely will love that. And so, for everybody who is listening to this podcast, you heard it from Nelson. His information is going to be on this page, his email and everything. So if you would like to reach out to him and have him come speak at your event or bring his books to your workshops, and especially if you're doing an empowerment workshop and he has this book, The Beauty in Us, Our Reality, his first book, or any one of his other series books that are coming out, definitely keep up with that. And again, we're businesses, we're speakers, we're authors. And so people rely on you to patron their business, to buy a book or book them to speak or talk about a business or help someone to get a career. Do any of those things and do that. So thank you so much, Nelson, for this interview. And to me, it was very inspiring, and I really enjoyed talking to you about everything that you're doing so far.
Thank you, Miss Alston. I definitely appreciate it, and I hope all of you guys, all of you, the listeners, I hope all of you guys, just reach out to me, buy as many books as you want, share my story, share my books, everything about me to another person. Tell people about what I'm doing. You need to see young African American men, young Black men doing something great for one.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you.